survive my first negative event without using? There's a very immediate answer to that question. By having a solid foundation in recovery. There's no way around it. I'm very partial to, I really like what Kathleen O'Connell and Phil Valentine talk about in the stages of recovery model, and where they talk about using the tools of recovery automatically. Now, nothing is automatic about using the tools of recovery in early days. I had to learn them. And I had to learn them by repetition, and I had to learn them by having the voices of recovery repeat the message, repeat the message, repeat the message. And you know, sort of, it was a bit of an ordeal, perhaps, going through it at the time, but I understood and was grateful for the well-intentioned repetition, repetition, repetition. So that the first time, you know, sort of, I had a bad flu. So like the symptoms of a hangover, I had already heard the message, go to meetings, go to meetings, go to meetings. And I'll never forget one particular Saturday in my early days where I had this horrible flu, and I wrapped myself up and I put a cocoon around myself because I really wasn't fit for social consumption. I went to one of the clubs in downtown Portland, Maine, where I was living at the time, and I sat there for about 4 or 5 consecutive meetings, and I just sat in that room, soaking it all up, because it was a place where I was not going to sink into self-pity over my flu with its symptoms of hangover. And that got me through, you know, sort of use the tools. And that wasn't automatic. And of course, you know, sort of, I thought about, you know, oh, gosh, a hot whiskey would be nice now, but it wouldn't. It wouldn't be nice now, basically. So I made sure that I was in the safest possible place. But the greatest moral challenge that I had was the morning I was at the morning at 11 a.m. I was at a wedding breakfast. And I was handed a glass of orange juice in an orange juice glass. I took a great big gulp of it, and lo and behold, it was a mimosa. Now, mimosa, where I come from, is called a Bucks Fizz. And boy, did I like Bucks Fizz. And so I recognized it immediately for what it was. So my moral challenge, a negative event, my moral challenge there was to call my sponsor and fess up. And of course, she used it as an opportunity to focus back on the principles, to remind me that I did not kick in that craving for a drink. And now I could use that experience to learn that I really must ask what's in a glass before I glug it down. An important learning opportunity for me. My greatest emotional crisis to date, of course, was very much more recent. And it's when my beloved friend Sherry died. We were on the phone together. She was in Ireland. I was by this point living in New York City. We were on the phone together. And something in her voice told me that this was the last phone call, that I was never going to hear her voice again, or not in life, maybe on a recording somewhere. And I seized the moment and told her how much I'd loved her. I love her still. I seized the moment and told her how grateful I am, I was, I will be forever for our friendship. And she was able to return the sentiments to me. So, of course, I'm grateful that we had that moment. When I put the phone down, of course, my world just, you know, imploded. And I thought to myself, now what? This is the worst emotional challenge of my life. Now what? And what for me turned out to be remembering that a grateful drunk doesn't drink. I had to find the gratitude. worst moment of my life, I had to find the gratitude. And I have to say, sometimes I'm a slow learner. It took me a while to realize that, of course, I'm grateful for 40 years of profound friendship. And with that, I took myself to a meeting where the secretary asked me to lead and to share, if I would, on grief and loss, using the tools of recovery automatically. In all of these cases, I discovered that one way or another, life is doable without alcohol. I discovered that by having a solid foundation in recovery, growing my recovery capital one day at a time.